Hey guys, this is Matt with the Recklessly Skeptical Podcast, and this is...
I'm Joe.
And I'm Josh.
Today is January 24th, 2016, and you can find this podcast on YouTube and...
Maybe Spreaker. We're kind of trying to work that out. We're having that discussion on whether we want to stay with them at all or not.
Yes, so definitely check us out on YouTube, and we'll let you know when we do the next podcast how things are sitting. So let's get started. Today, I have a story about In God We Trust on our currency. I know we all love that. So Huffington Post is reporting that a group of atheists seeking to drop the phrase In God We Trust from U.S. currency filed a federal lawsuit this week in Akron, Ohio, arguing the expression violates the separation of church and state.
Well, good.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. The group of 41 plaintiffs is led by Sacramento attorney Michael Newdow, who previously sued the government to remove the words "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance, but was unsuccessful.
Lame.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't see this case being won in the way we would wish it to be won.
Yeah, it's... Well, at least it'll raise the consciousness of this in American culture because, we should be past the point where in God we trust and under God is in our everyday stuff. Like, why do we need that on money and why do we need that in the pledge? And I don't even know if we should have a pledge, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Well, they originally put it on there to show Christian values against the commies in, the 1950s or something?
Yeah, I think it was on coins before that. But I think they put it on paper money in the 50s. But it definitely wasn't there in the birth, from the birth of our country.
And same with the pledge, correct?
Yeah, that was in the 50s for sure.
Yeah, and the pledge wasn't even something that we had during the time the Founding Fathers were around. There was no such thing as a Pledge of Allegiance at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure most people know, at least for me, I'm against patriotism. So I say fuck all that shit. And definitely... we shouldn't have In God We Trust, on our money. And what's bullshit is I know the case about getting it removed from the pledge, since it's not specific about Christian or whatever, they said, it's whatever God you want it to be.
It's well, what if you don't want it to be about any God?
Exactly. It shouldn't be there. I hope they remove it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing we need to fight for, constantly is the separation of church and state.
So I've heard an argument online, and I've heard this about American atheists, and that is that sometimes atheists and our group goes after things that aren't worth fighting over, like that make us more unpopular than we need to be. Do you think that falls under that category, Matt, or do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I completely see what you're saying, and I think... it matters. When you allow any sort of group, religion, or whatever it is to have a special little pedestal, no matter how big or small, that just allows them, it gives them a little more power, and they can take a little bit more power. And that's what this country was founded on, was getting away from the theocracy in Europe. And when one religion has so much power over the group of people, it can be very devastating. And I think every little fight matters.
Look at Hitler and the occult. We're not too far from that, actually. Okay, so what? Early Germany, they passed the Fatherland Act. And that was, they can go look through your mail and go do all this and stuff. And then they passed another bill or a law where they could arrest anybody they wanted without trial and indefinitely. And then they started throwing Jewish people on trains, to get them out of the country. But they were taking them to concentration camps and fucking committing genocide. We're one step away from that. We passed the Patriot Act. Bush did. Obama signed the NDAA. Now look at fucking Trump and all that horrible racist rhetoric he's talking. What if he gets in office and we start, let's get the Muslims out of here, and we start throwing them on trains? That's one step away from throwing them in concentration camps and having them killed.
And that's I think that's a different conversation than the "In God We Trust" thing. But I mean, I do mostly agree with that.
But see, and that's all I'm saying. Little steps like that, putting "In God We Trust" on the money, it can lead to other steps, and then bigger steps, and then dangerous steps. And we need to separate church and state. So yeah, I think we're not going after battles that are fruitless or whatever. Getting "In God We Trust" off of the money is an important thing.
Yeah, and my criticism of it, of having "In God We Trust," is that when we do things to normalize certain ideas, what it does is it causes other ideas, such as non-religious ideas or atheistic or agnostic, if that's what you choose to call yourself. If those ideas become the norm, then we're seen as abnormal, and that's something we should fight against, because that's where it becomes okay to shit talk atheists and non-believers on public radio and on public television, and that's not what we should be going for, especially when a lot of the non-religious people, a lot of people in scientific communities are non-religious, and those are who we should want to lead the country, is the sober-minded, scientific-minded people, not the religious nut jobs like Donald Trump.
I have something I want to read if you guys want to just talk for a second.
Sure, and I mean, I guess the other side of the coin is it's worth that. There's 12% of Americans don't believe in God, even though only half that many call themselves atheists. And we're absolutely underappreciated and under-recognized in any consideration of legislation. And I think that trend's only going to show that non-religious people are going to keep on growing. For younger people, religion has become less important, and that's something that has been proven over multiple polls, including a Pew poll. So,
if you guys aren't reading David Silverman's new book, Fighting God,
I bought it yesterday.
You did?
Yeah.
Awesome. It's really good. And he talks about this exact thing in there. Why do they care about these little issues, and why do they do these lawsuits, and why the firebrand atheist is so important? And I posted this yesterday because I thought it was great. So, enter the firebrands. We chip away at privilege, disrespect the unrespectable, and refuse to obey someone else's religious rules. We laugh at threats of hell, literally and loudly, while demanding total equality. We attract everyone's attention to atheist existence and issues. Firebrands are the movement's awareness generator. It's pretty great. And when I read this yesterday, so the marathon, the Boston bombing, 9/11, and a few other things, when they would do interfaith, vigils and stuff, the American atheists would be like, "Hey, can we join you guys?" And they were denied all these times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that was just to come together and support the families. And they're like, "Oh, you're atheist. Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, that's ridiculous. For time's sake, I'm going to keep on saying that so we can move along, because we have a lot we want to cover this first half hour, so we leave the second half hour open for a lot more on a specific topic.
Yes. Here in Utah, we have a senator, a Republican, which is pretty interesting, Mark Madsen, who is trying to pass a bill, SB 259. It's a medical cannabis bill. And he tried the last session, and it barely failed.
By 1 point?
Yeah.
Because of special interest groups?
Yes. Most Utahns want medical marijuana, and we're hoping it passes this time. And our governor here in Utah said something kind of funny.
Yeah, and so I've got the soundbite for that. And also, before we get, Matt forgot to plug, join us on Facebook at The Evil Atheist.
Yeah.
Evil being in quotation marks. So The Evil Atheist on Facebook, because we want to interact with you guys. That's the main primary goal of this podcast, is to talk to you guys. So when you disagree with us, jump on there. When you agree with us, jump on there and tell us how we're doing. I mean, that's really the best line of getting in contact with us, and we will respond. So here is Governor Herbert talking about marijuana, and it's just a short clip.
I think that the discussion is now at hand. The time is nigh to see if we can find a pathway forward on this. But I'm not interested in having Dr. Feelgood out there say, yeah, que pasa, here's your doobie for the day.
Utah Governor.
And that's what he said. Que pasa? Here's your doobie for the day.
He got a lot of flack for that, and I'm actually happy he did. He's as a person, I think he's all right, but as a governor and someone who's supposed to be for the people and stuff, he's made a lot of stupid decisions and stuff. And I think he should get flack for that.
I think I hope we vote him out. He was the one who challenged same-sex marriage multiple times in court and took it all the way up as far as he could. And it would have been our case that went to the Supreme Court had the Supreme Court not picked up another case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a fucking jackass in my perspective.
Fuck him.
Yeah, he's just a religious right-wing nut. And, I don't think he meant that in a racist way.
But it was insensitive.
It was insensitive, and fuck you if, there's people out there that actually need medical marijuana. It fucking helps them. So fuck you. And if a grown-ass adult wants to smoke some weed and get a little high, fuck you, they can.
Yeah, what's wrong?
See, yeah, that's the problem.
What's wrong with the doobie of a day or for the day?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The way I see it, I go to work, I bust my ass, and when I get home, I want to sit on the couch, drink a beer, and smoke a bowl. Why the fuck not? I'm an adult. I can do what I want. Yeah. And, marijuana isn't half as bad as alcohol. Alcohol is 10 times more dangerous than marijuana.
What is it, 50,000 deaths every year from alcohol?
Yeah.
How many from weed? 0.
Yep. But
unless, like Joe Rogan says, the only way you can die from marijuana is they put a ton of it in a CIA plane and they push it out and it fucking falls on you.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can die from weed.
Governor Herbert, yes, I want to get him out of there. So I've been researching our 2 Democrat guys who are going to be running up against him in November.
Yeah.
There's, what's his name? His name is Weitzman, like Richard Weitzman or something like that. And then there's Von Cook and stuff. I didn't read too much about Von Cook, but Weitzman sounds like the guy.
Yeah, and this is supposedly the closest, if not the first time, we'll have a Democratic governor since, 1980.
Yeah.
It's been since before I was fucking born that we've had a Democratic governor, and it'd be nice to get that, because we've been we've had a Democratic mayor of Salt Lake twice in a row, and and it's about time we start putting in Democrats in really powerful positions in Utah and change the way everybody looks at the state. We've had fucking, what's his name? The guy who's in Senate, who's a complete jackass.
Orrin Hatch?
Yeah, fuck Hatch. I don't think there's only one senator that I know of that I disagree with more often on more subjects.
Yeah, and it sucks that they're representing us.
Yeah, and he's big oil, dude,
Yeah.
and big farm, and big everything. He's so pro-establishment. It's sick.
Yeah, we need more Democrats and stuff. And our most recent mayor, she's actually lesbian.
Yeah, and that's
which
really
is
cool.
really cool. Yeah,
Democratic lesbian here in Utah.
Oh man, a lot of people lost their shit over that when she was like, "Yeah, I'm gay." Dude, people were like, "What?"
But good thing that Salt Lake City, unlike the rest of the state, is primarily Democrats.
Yes.
And so, if you are out of state, that might sound weird to you. Utah is this big fundamental state, but a right-wing state. But actually, there's a lot of us in Utah that are Democratic. We hang out with mainly Democrats most of the time when we go hang out with different groups of people.
Yeah.
So I want to. Did you guys want to say anything else on that?
No.
Yeah, I do. To the Utah listeners that are listening to us, I believe, which is most, I don't know. Let's vote out as many Republicans as you can this campaign coming up this year.
Yeah, we can, and we'll do a show specifically, and maybe it'll just be a 5-minute clip of a show specifically on how to vote in Utah.
Okay. Yeah.
Hell yeah, I like it. So Donald Trump, or I guess I could just say his name and it's like a joke, There's no punchline or just Donald Trump.
Oop, sorry.
But he boasted Saturday that support for his presidential campaign would not decline if he shot someone in the middle of a crowded street. I quote, "I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose voters." He said this at a campaign rally.
So basically what he's saying is he's so badass and his voters are so ignorant and stupid that he could do whatever he wants.
Yeah, CNN is reporting that the GOP frontrunner has repeatedly pointed out to the loyalty of his supporters, many of whom tell reporters and pollsters that almost nothing could make them change their mind about voting for Trump in the presidential race. So they're fucking dumb.
Well, and that's so he's living in this bubble right now. Like, I don't think he understands that he is. But like, he goes to Trump rallies, thousands of people pour in. He's got a lot of support from the Republican base. But he has to realize, like, he's fucking retarded. He has to realize that he has to win a general election to become a fucking president. And he's not willing to understand that part of it.
Yeah, Democrats are not going to vote for
Like,
him.
it doesn't matter how loud your base is, but if you can't expand your base to include the moderates, the Hispanic vote, the minority vote, which he's not just not getting, he's driving them away from the Republican group altogether. And so when he wants to say shit like that, yes, you have a huge turnout that is going to support you. Like 20% of the Republican base is going to support Donald Trump no matter what. They're going to call for him to run independently if he were to lose the
nomination.
Yeah, the nomination. Like they would want him to run independently. And if he ran as an independent, I'm sure he would get a record turnout. He would have 15-20% that would vote for Donald Trump. But the problem is he's also the most hated politician. He has Hillary's like second with the 51% disapproval, which means that, and we'll get to this more in the second hour, that she's going to have a hard time winning a general election. Unless she's running against Donald Trump, who has 56% of the population who would not vote for him, like who dislikes him or hates him.
And I just wanted to mention, I'm sure everybody knows that Sarah Palin just endorsed Donald Trump. I mean, is that that's the gruesome twosome, man?
It's a clown endorsing another clown.
It's if you guys haven't watched the video of her endorsing Trump, you guys need to watch it.
And then her son just recently got
bad.
arrested for domestic violence,
Yeah, you know
and
what?
stuff for beating up his wife or his girlfriend, and then she turned around and said, "It's Obama's fault."
Yeah,
and it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Your son needs to take, the consequences of his actions and man up.
That is such a thing with Christians,
Yeah,
it's not my fault. It's the devil's fault. It's not my fault. It's Obama's fault. If I just say, I'm sorry, Jesus, I don't have to be responsible for my actions,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to actually find that clip. So, 1 second. And I found it. So here is the audio for the Sarah Palin talking. And pardon us for playing her shrill voice on our podcast.
Yeah.
Take a look at her video.
I can talk personally about this. I guess it's kind of the elephant in the room because my own family going through what we're going through today with my son, a combat vet, having served in a Stryker brigade, fighting for you all, America, in the war zone. But my son, like so many others, they come back a bit different. They come back hardened. They come back wondering if there is that respect. And that starts from the top. It's a shame that our military personnel even have to wonder if they have to question if they're respected anymore. So when my own son is going through what he goes through coming back, I can certainly relate with other families who kind of feel these ramifications of some PTSD, and it makes me realize more than ever, it is now or never, for the sake of America's finest, that we have that commander-in-chief who will respect them and honor them.
And Bernie Sanders has done more for the VA than anybody.
Who sends soldiers to war?
Republicans.
Who denies fucking benefits to fucking soldiers?
Republicans.
So it makes me so fucking mad when I hear these motherfuckers talk shit. I don't think Obama's great either, but they're fucking lying and they're so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
If you fucking want to respect fucking soldiers, stop sending them to bullshit fucking wars.
Yeah, exactly. Man, look. Yeah, she's stupid. Trump's stupid. They're all fucking stupid.
Yeah, and there's a lot to take from that. Like, she didn't directly say, "Oh, it's Obama's fault," but she's talking about how soldiers have to come back. And I also want to say for any member of the audience who's listening, that's not just one speech. That's some of the lines that she said over her speech. So she didn't say that all in order, just to be safe on clarification. But she did say all of those things, essentially inferring that it's Barack Obama's fault. But I mean, the war in Iraq didn't need to happen. It never needed to happen. That was an elective war that we decided to go to. Bernie Sanders voted against it, like he's voted against any unnecessary war that he's ever run into. And the other thing is that he's the one who's been quoted saying that if you can't afford to take care of your troops after they come back, you shouldn't be involved in any wars.
Yeah, and who doesn't want social programs that would help, the Americans? It's fucking Republicans. It just pisses me off. They want to send people to fucking die, and then they don't want to fucking help them. And then Democrats, even though a lot of them are shitbags too, they're the ones trying to clean up the fucking mess.
Yeah, and they always point towards pragmatism. Oh, we want to save money. We want to help these soldiers, but we need to find somewhere in the budget we can make it work. Bullshit. You got to make it a priority. Fuck that.
How much of our money goes to military? 57 or
51%.
51% of our fucking tax dollars or whatever, right? Goes to fucking military spending, and we spend. It's like the next 7 countries combined, more than them. And I hear these fucking Republicans saying that our military's in shambles and we need to strengthen our military. You guys are just paid by the military complex, and you're fucking lying, and you're fucking sending people to war to kill and to be fucking killed.
Yeah, and I think Bernie, this isn't verbatim, but he actually said, too, that God, what did he say? He said something about let's not make bombs for a fucking year and take care of our guys.
Yeah,
totally.
And let's take care of the people. That's more than enough money. We spend billions on bombs every year. And he's all, you know what? Fuck, let's not make bombs for 1 year. And fucking let's take care of the people.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so do you have your science story ready, Joe?
I have one other story, and Joe, you can do your science story first.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a quick little
if
science
we have
story, and I'm sure most of our listeners follow your your science stories that come up, and
maybe not. I mean, this is something that's really interesting too. And there's a lot of I had a conversation with my parents around the dinner table about this, and it's super interesting to me, like how the question they brought up to me. And so I think I know what it's about. The question they brought up to me is that how could there be another planet in our solar system and we haven't seen it after all these years? So,
okay.
You want to read the story?
Yeah, I'll read the story, and this is by Eric Hand from Science Magazine. It says the solar system appears to have a new 9th planet. 2 scientists announced evidence that a body nearly the size of Neptune, but as yet unseen, orbits the sun every 15,000 years. So they believe it was created during the system's infancy stage about 4.5 billion years ago. They say it was knocked out of orbit by other forming planets near the sun. It was slowed down by gas. The planet settled into a distant elliptical orbit where it still lurks today. And that's the reason why we kind of figure it's there. We use science and math and equations to understand where certain bodies and things are
and
in space.
How they move.
And stuff. So what's going on right now is there's quite a bit of other planets and things orbiting kind of differently, and we're like, well, the only way those things are going to orbit like that if there was something over here causing a different gravitational pull.
Yeah,
exactly.
And to use the specific terminology, we're talking about the Kuiper Belt, which is the like the asteroid belt outside of
it's beyond Neptune.
Yeah, where kind of where Pluto hangs out, some parts of its solar cycle. And what we're talking about also is we're seeing things in gravity that shouldn't be happening unless there is another planet, and the planet is 9 times bigger than Earth, but it's like drastically further out than any planet that we imagine.
It's extremely far. And I know a bunch of people are mad that Pluto's not considered a planet.
Yeah, in other news, Pluto is now taking antidepressants and smoking marijuana to try and get over its depression.
Hey, it's part of the other cool little group of planets we have in our solar system that you don't hear much about.
Dwarfs.
I can talk to people and they're like, oh, well, we only have these. I'm like, no, dude, there's hundreds of things floating around in our solar system. And there's like 3 or 4 different dwarf planets. There's Sirius. There's I don't know, a couple other ones, Pluto.
And
I hear a lot of people use the Pluto thing, as a way to insult science.
Oh, really?
Like, science changes. It's not like the planet or the dwarf planet like changed size and we didn't know. We just reclassified it.
Yeah.
It's still the same fucking thing. And the fact that science does change is a good thing.
Yeah.
We're willing to change our mind based on new evidence.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a good thing. We're not fucking stagnant and stuck in our ways, and we're going to fight to the death.
And in other news, people claim that Planet X has been found and the aliens are now going to come and get us. All right, so let's move on to the last story, Matt. We've got about 3 minutes.
All right, so I'm sure everybody knows about Flint. The water there in Flint has been poisoned with lead. And I'm just going to read from U.S. Uncut. About 200 activists protested outside Flint City Hall on January 8th against Michigan Governor Rick Snyder's inadequate handling of the city's water crisis. Many activists called for Rick Snyder to resign or face criminal charges for his role in the administration that switched the water source for the city to the Flint River, then stayed silent when presented with evidence that the new water had toxic levels of lead in the water. Over 900 times the EPA limit, according to some estimates.
It's a ridiculous amount.
Oh, it's crazy. Now, a new fear has risen among residents of Flint, Michigan, who have been dealing with lead-tainted water since 2014. A recent rise of, and I'm going to slaughter this word, Legionella or Legionnaires' disease has produced 87 cases of the disease, 10 of which were fatal.
Yeah, I think it's Legionnaires.
Legionnaires?
Yeah, I think
So, and they haven't exactly connected to the deaths to the water, but everybody's pretty sure, and we need to do some more investigating. But this is just awful. If the governor actually knew, and he didn't do anything to save fucking money,
And he came out and actually told the people it's safe, drink the water anyway.
Yeah, and so there are a few different things. So first off, you know who brought this to national attention? It was Hillary and I mean it was in the news, but it wasn't a major news story until Hillary brought it up.
Bernie was talking about it before.
Yeah. We'll get into that. So Hillary brought it up in the debate, and that's kind of where everybody's like, "What?" And so Hillary, I can't remember what she did, but she said she sent someone to talk to the mayor. But Bernie's called the next day, and he's been talking about this for longer than she has. The next day called for his resignation, which is the only right thing that would happen at this time. And if these deaths can be tied to the lead poisoning, like Joe was saying off air, he should be tried. Like he should face charges.
He should face charges
Criminal
of murder.
charges.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and that's one thing I can't stand is you watch these politicians and these people with money. Like, you look at the influenza kid who killed fucking 6 people, and he got away with it. It's like, you know what? These people need to be held accountable just like everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah, and so the other side of this is the Republicans had no fucking clue what was going on. They asked, I'm trying to remember, Rubio. They asked Rubio about it like 2 days after it came up in the Republican debate, and he's like, "Oh, it sounds bad, but I haven't been briefed on it." And so then there was this media outcry against it. And Matt, do you want to? You sounds like you have the story pulled up.
I have something. It says Dr. Mark Edwards, a Virginia Tech researcher who has been researching Flint's water crisis, said he can definitely link the outbreak to the Flint River, but that there is a clear association and the increase of cases after the Flint River was tapped as their main water source is dramatic. So he is sure that he can link it.
And the last 20 seconds of this story that I want to use to say, just imagine if, like, water plays such a huge role in your life. Like, think about it runs our sewage systems. I mean, this is something that would mean that you couldn't have you would have to bathe your kids in bottled water. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you can't shower with it, you can't drink it, you can't cook with it, you can't do anything with it. So you're on bottled water only.
And you look at the videos too, and this water was coming out orange,
Yes,
and brown, and really disgusting looking. And the people were like, "What's going on with this?" And the mayor was like, "Oh, it's fine. Drink it anyway."
I lived in these apartments not too long ago, and the water came out discolored. And I called them. I'm like, dude, my water's like funny looking. And they're like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine. But and then I ended up moving out after like a month.
Yeah. So catch us. Thanks for catching us this episode. We'll be back on YouTube with another episode later on about Bernie Sanders. So join us.